Hello everyone. Welcome to Growth Sutra monthly LinkedIn live session. I'm Ritika and I'm really happy to be here with you all today. So let me quickly introduce our speakers for today's session. So we have Deepak Luthra, CEO of Jabulani Consulting, Mayank Purwar, CEO and board member of NextGen.
Ritika, we lost you. We can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. So as I was saying that today's session is structured in three segments. The first segment is going to be the burnout paradox. The second segment is going to be the repetition revenue war, and the third and last segment is going to be the pipeline prison break. The session is interactive, and in the chat window, I would request you all to please mention your name and your location from where you're joining. Drop your questions, tell us about your own experience with burnout, and please do not forget to like our event page. So let's get started. Over to you, Ishan.
Thank you, Ritika. Thank you so much. So while we had a good start, and we had some introductions. I think there are a couple of introductions which got missed out because we lost Ritika's video, but we'll cover it while we go in the flow. So when you look at the today's session, which is from burnout to breakthrough, and if you can picture this, like you are closing deals, hitting targets, revenue is climbing, but your best leaders are burning out. Your pipeline depends on people working weekends. And the moment you pause, everything falls apart. And this is the situation sometimes that happen uh, in um, in various companies, especially in the early stage and in those enterprises where the systems are not clearly laid out. So we have tonight three leaders who understand this struggle. They have seen these kind of scenarios in their industries, in the companies that they have worked with. So Mayank leads a technology company. He's the chairman and board member and also CEO for a tech company. And he has navigated the daily pressure of scaling while keeping his team energized. Sanjay is the former CEO of Mahindra World City, one of India's largest integrated business cities. He also held senior roles at Accenture, Data Communication, and CRISIL. So today he advises business on sustainable growth. So welcome, Sanjay. Deepak, as you all know, he is the founder and CEO of a consulting company, Jabulani Consulting, and that helps leadership teams build systems that work. And let's begin uh, with a quick icebreaker. Let me ask a question to all of my speakers that we have. You have heard about an old saying in business: "What got you here won't get you there." But here's the harder truth: what got you here might actually be burning you down. And so let's start with something real. So here's my question for all three of you: if you had to give a TED talk titled Burnout That Destroys a Leadership Career, what would be your opening line? So, Mank, as you know, you have been leading a tech company where the pace never slows down. Let's start with you.
Yeah. So see, normally when we look at leaders who are burning out, so it's not the leaders who are burning out. It's the thought.
Okay. Mank, I think we lost you. Maybe I think there's some network issue with Mank. Sanjay, now maybe you can, because you have at the helm of some of the large companies. Maybe you can share your opening line about this statement that I just shared.
Right. I had a blackout, so I was not very sure whether any one of you can hear me as well.
No, we
Anyhow,
couldn't actually.
Yeah, you
So
now. You can go ahead.
okay. So what I feel is most leaders are aren't burnt out because they are doing too much. They are burnt out because they have lost the sight of why they are doing that. And it's important to first answer the question within ourselves. Are we doing we always start with a purpose, but when we start running after the numbers, we actually lose the sight of that purpose, and that becomes really a monotonous game. Then you are only working on numbers and nothing else. So it's important to revisit that particular purpose, that why we started the whole thing. Because that's the essence of really bringing value to the world, to the community, to the country, to the world.
Thank you, Meg. Meg, I think there's some feedback which is coming in through your mic, so that's why it was not clearly. We could not hear you clearly, but maybe we can come back and hear your point of view again. But let me now quickly go to Sanjay. Sanjay, would you like to add your views here?
Sure. So I think first and foremost, a good evening, good morning to all your audience, and thanks so much, Vish and the Growth Sutra team for having us here. So I think today, since we are talking about a very critical aspect, which is burnout versus sustainable business, if I have to summarize in just one statement, I'll put it very simply that burnout is almost akin to you building a bonfire of all your resources at one go, and you may feel in the short term there's a lot of heat, but very soon all the resources will be burnt out and there'll be nothing left. Vis-a-vis, building a sustainable business would be almost like planting a seed for a future big tree, which you nurture consistently, which you take that through all the seasons, and at the end you will have a much more stronger plant or a tree which will actually not just give you a sustainable protection to all your team but to the larger organization. So that's how I would see the contrast in one line between a burnout and versus a sustainable growth business.
Thank you, Sanjay. That's a powerful message. Deepak, you have been working with CEOs and founders who are often at breaking point. So, what is your viewpoint here?
My viewpoint is pretty simple, actually. I've noticed one thing about burnout, right? It never starts with exhaustion because no one admits to exhaustion. It actually starts with applause that you get for all the work you're doing. We don't typically crash because we're weak. I mean, one thing I've realized is in the corporate world, we're actually being rewarded even when we're running on fumes. Most of us, including me, we look like being busy as a badge of honor. We stick it on our lapel, put it onto our chest. We're so proud of it, right? Going to bed completely exhausted and tired is ultimate in our books, right? Ambition is amazing. Success is a great indicator. The reality is that the both together can sometimes be misconstrued. And I think that's the problem. For me, the biggest challenge is there's a silent danger of burnout, Vish. And that's what people need to understand that, right? Because admitting to burnout means you're like admitting to failure, and that's been my experience. And I think we need to actually destigmatize this, have a proper conversation around it, right? The reality is that people perform brilliantly, but inside they're quietly burning, and they need to stop and ask themselves, is the facade worth it or not? And then start putting in. For early career people in particular, I'd always say this as follows: it's not about being on a meditation app or taking a vacation, because people say that's it. It's not. It's actually about you do everything, but you actually do what's supposed to be done, which matters the most. And that prioritization is actually how you can avoid burnout. But I'm now getting to solutioning, and I think you just wanted a headline. So that's how I would position it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Deepak. And I understand. You have also authored a book, and I think it's coming to this end soon. And I think we are also planning to do another session on
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that, Vish.
that session is on 6th of November, and I'll request all my audience to kind of join for that session, which has been scheduled on 6th of November at 6:30 p.m. IST. So thank you, Ritika, for sharing that. So thank you for setting that context. And this is the reason I wanted to have your views in terms of how you see burnout, because we talk about successes a lot, but sometimes we do not talk about failures. And as Deepak you mentioned, the people do not talk about exhaustion. So that's where today we are delving into this topic, and we are trying to deliberate on three angles as part of this discussion. So the first segment is about the burnout paradox. The second segment is on revenue reputation war, because it's the burnout that actually results in the impact on either reputation or revenue. And the third section is the pipeline prison break, where we would delve into what are the various ways in which we we actually build a system that can run without any dependence on leadership. And that's where I've already actually received a couple of questions. I've received a question from Deepak Mehta, and we will be addressing that question in that specific segment. But I'll also request all the audience who are there, we want to keep this session interactive. So if you have any questions, please drop your questions in the comment box. And I'll be happy to take those questions while we're having conversations with our speakers. So let me begin with the burnout paradox. Why we call this as the burnout paradox? So imagine a bootstrapped startup. The founder is doing everything: closing deals, managing the team, handling operations, revenue is growing, but they are working 80 hours a week. Or picture a funded company that just raised Series B. The pressure to hit aggressive growth targets is crushing. Leaders push harder, work longer, sacrifice more. But here's the paradox: the harder they push to grow revenue, the more they damage their ability to lead effectively. And they are working more but creating less sustainable value. And this triggers a vicious cycle. Burnout leads to reactive choices. Reactive choices lead to inconsistent performance. Inconsistent performance lowers trust with customers and various stakeholders. It could be your board members, it could be your teams. And lower trust creates more stress within the ecosystem that you operate, and more stress deepens the burnout, and the cycle continues. So these warning signals are critical. You have to kind of understand what actually is impacting your ecosystem, how it's your the cycle that is started. Where should we stop? Can we take a preemptive step to kind of stop that kind of vicious cycle? And let me begin a question with Deepak. So Deepak, you audit leadership teams that are stuck in these kind of cycles. When you walk into a company where the pipeline is being held together by heroics, as I'm just assuming, instead of systems, what are the three earliest warning signals you see? Or how would you kind of assess there's a problem with the ecosystem, there's a problem with this startup or this company?
I, I-
And
the way I
yeah.
would answer that is, I just want you to tag along with me into a typical sales meeting. And
Hmm.
this is what I typically notice, right? Is that you will suddenly sit there and you'll realize that everyone in the room is talking about a system, but no one is in the system. And I know it sounds funny. This is when
Mhm.
lone wolf culture comes in, or where someone talks a different methodology, someone talks a different method. For me, there are three early signs, and these signs usually come up within 10 minutes of any sales review that I will be sitting, watching, listening, and trying to understand, right? And I've suffered these as well. And for clarity's sake, I've also made these mistakes in my own career in reviews, right? Number one that I've noticed is that leaders talk more than they listen. This is where your meetings have become monologues. A conversation starts where you're actually supposed to be coaching the team, and you end up interrogating the team, and you're talking and talking and talking about how you used to do things in the good old days and how they should do it. Essentially, that's performance theater. It's heroics where you are standing there like Superman and you're telling people, but it has no relevance because it's not contextual. And people used to be motivated by this 10, 15 years ago, not anymore.
Mm.
The post COVID world requires a different level of motivation. So that's the first one. Number two one is everyone is talking about how busy they are, but when you ask them, your calendar is full, but I want you to tell me exactly what exactly will you be achieving from this meeting. And that's when you realize that what people are doing is they're accelerating to what I call exhaustion, right? But
Mm.
there's nobody thinking. If you're trying to scale a business, you really need to look at what are the intent and purpose of those meetings in your diary. And that's been my biggest way to call people out. And when you also realize, if you look at the agenda of a meeting, and which you'll be surprised, something that could be resolved in a 1 minute 2 minute conversation, people are putting 20 minutes 30 minutes in a diary for. That is,
Yeah.
there's your exhaustion, there's your burnout right there. And here's the most critical one. When I go to sales kickoff and I actually listen very carefully to why people are winning awards, you're going to be surprised. People get recognition because they're firefighters, not because they're architects. The award for the deal of the year goes to Mayank because Mayank saved us at the end of the day because we had a change in the decision makers. Therefore, he went and he worked with this specific decision maker. And you got to ask yourself a question there. That sounds like maybe politicking, not necessarily selling. And these are the
Mm.
type of things. Or they'll suddenly say, it was the end of the quarter, we were missing our number. But then Mayank came in and he brought this one single deal, which actually helped us exceed our quarter and everyone got a bonus. These are all awesome and great. But the reality is that what are we rewarding there? So I always ask people a simple question. You need to understand what you reward, people will repeat. And what you repeat ultimately becomes culture. So this is that catch 22 paradox that I'm going to talk about. I hope that gives some perspective as to how I look at this. For me, this is very, very crystal clear. Heroics will save the month, but I guarantee you, systems will save your future. Back to you, Vish.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deepak. And you said the right context, especially when you look at when you are only awarding sales people who are winning more deals for you or who are actually meeting their targets. Uh, I've seen the stats. So these people are normally 10 or 20% of the entire sales team that you may have.
Mhm.
So you are rewarding only 20%, while remaining 80% are getting ignored because whatever effort that they have put in, they are not getting the award for whatever effort which they have put in. But someone who might have got a little extra, or who could get few more deals, so he won the award. But then that's also creates a paradox. In fact, I have shared a LinkedIn posts in this regard, and I got some good traction. But yes, that system itself is might not be working that effectively as people or as leaders might have intended. But let me go to Sanjay. He has seen these kind of systems. He has chaired such companies. Sanjay, what is your take? When you lead India's largest integrated business cities as CEO of Mahindra World City, you might have managed thousands of employees, multiple stakeholders, and huge growth targets. From that executive vantage point, if you could share how internal sustainability or the lack of it become visible to the market, and how does this impact deal size and customer trust? So over to
Uh,
you, Sanjay.
Sure, Vishwendra. So I think when you look at in such kind of a situation, you can see some common threads, and those threads may be for your own business. Yeah, they may be even for it may even be visible when you go to your clients, because you are also trying to nurture clients who in turn will have sustainable business. Like for example, in industrial cities, when you're trying to get new customers, the first part of the deal will be for a 99-year lease, right? So phase
Hmm.
one is a 99-year lease. So just like how customers are evaluating you, you also really also want a very clear cut view that this business will sustain. Otherwise, tomorrow you don't want to build, you want to build a thriving industrial ecosystem and not a ghost city. Someone's
Absolutely.
there's a lot of ambient noise. I don't know who's. Suddenly,
Is
I
there
can.
feedback? Let me mute my speakers and other speakers. Maybe that could
Yeah.
be the reason.
No, no, now
Is it
it's
better?
just fine. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
great. So, sorry. So I think, as you mentioned, the proof there are various strands or very clear signals which emerge, both quantitative and qualitative. Some of the most simple thresholds to look at it is for any sustainable business. And I used to ask that question, even other clients or potential clients will ask that business, what, especially at a nascent stage, what is the kind of ratio between a recurring revenue and a one-time revenue? That gives you a very good uh, indicator. Another indicator can be what is your dependency on your top two or top five clients, because that shows you how lopsided can be those deals. In terms of other indicators, especially in a startup or an early stage, the frequency of employee turnover is a very clear marker that are you holding people who with a common belief together and they are really woven across a greater cause, because that is a very critical aspect. Even once deals have happened, I think all clients know that at some point of delivery there may be some misses, which is a part of life. So what is most important is the feedback which is there from clients, especially the early or the anchor clients, that how well did the organization handle these situations when deals did not go on a envisaged manner, because everyone understands that you have done it and there will be a go. But the way how an organization or the individuals who sold a deal or who are actually executing it, how well do they really take ownership of any misses, and how do they really work on it? Because all of that ultimately leads to a reputation, and you want your early anchor clients or the first set of clients to be your greatest actually protagonist. Because in
Yeah.
B2B business, as you know, the repeat business or a referral business is the most profitable part of any B2B service provider. And if you're able to really build that, then that is really matters. So hence, even if a very quick 360-degree feedback, what are your clients saying? Maybe what are your vendors and suppliers saying? Just like as you are a startup, many of them may also be a small providers. How well are you treating them into the ecosystem, or you are just trying to just get a winner takes all attitude? And similarly, even when people are moving out, especially in the nascent stage, there may be a high turnover. But even when people move out, what is the kind of feedback they are giving, either directly or in a place like Glassdoor? What are they saying about the companies? And all of this ultimately points to the direction that directionally you are in the right direction, or as Deepak mentioned, you're just running a treadmill just to stay in the same place. So these are some of the pointers which I think most of the sharp customers and even financial investors will pick up very fast.
Correct. Yeah, I agree, Sanjay. In fact, you talked about a very important topic, which is seeking feedback from your clients, from your vendors, your suppliers. So that feedback loop is very critical. When that feedback loop can actually help you or help any company or leader to figure out what are the signals that they are getting, what are their issues, which are either with their own internal operations, or the issues with the how our team interacting with customers. And that's where, once you have feedback loop in place, you can do root cause analysis. You can figure out what are those, how you can resolve some of the issues that you're facing. So while you are sharing your views, I received a question from Deepak, and I thought, because we are talking about the purpose, and so Deepak question is, what does purposeful pipeline building mean in reality? Can you share some examples which have worked? So that's the next segment. But let me ask this question to Sanjay and Deepak. Uh, if, how do you define this purposeful pipeline for any business? Deepak, you're on mute. Let me unmute you.
There I am. You can hear me now, right? So
Yeah.
I'll take a stab at that and give Sanjay a breather. I really love this question because this is ultimately about heroics, right? And for me, that shift that you're talking about is moving from chasing volume to creating velocity, but with intent, right? You're now doing something very different. So, and I think
Mm.
Sanjay said it brilliantly, right? You're on a treadmill. If your intent is to go from point A to point B, then being on a treadmill is not going to necessarily serve that, even though you seem to have a lot of motion, right?
Mm.
So the question that you need to ask is stop asking, how do we fill the funnel? And start asking, why would the right buyer want to enter our world, stay with us, and buy from us and keep buying from us? You have to, this is a mind shift in terms of how you are stacking up. It's the same thing about, those meetings I was talking about. Do an analysis and you'll be actually surprised. People are building systems and stories and habits which are just delivering the wrong results because they are measuring the wrong things. That's how I would say
Mm.
it. So it's to me purposeful pipeline, as he called it, right? It's growing
Yeah.
because it deserves to grow, not because it's being forced to grow. That's what I would position it back to Deepak as. Back to you, sir.
Thank you. Mang, Sanjay, do you want to add? Mang, I remember we had a conversation. You also talked about some, how to kind of view your pipeline with purpose. You are on mute.
See, a very important part which has been raised is pipeline. I mean, we normally consider this as bringing in opportunities, loads of leads. Leads are coming in all the time, and then we just forget to evaluate whether these leads do mean anything to us, or it is just filling our pipeline from an emotional perspective. That is, and normally most of the sales guys, in order to impress their bosses, they will keep on adding a lot of opportunities, or let's say leads into the system, rather than really caring about qualifying those
Mm.
leads and then converting those leads into opportunities. And when I say opportunity, it is not just an opportunity and a lead which is giving you business, but it also helps us evaluate the risks which are internally out there. So does it really mean value creation for the company, for its customer? I think that's the main purpose. I think both Sanjay as well as Deepak mentioned about the intent, and that intent is all about the purpose why we are here, uh, why a company has started and started to work on what we want to actually achieve.
Yeah. So it's more of the value creation. Yeah, value creation, which is not only for us but also for the customer, and
Correct.
that has been captured within the pipeline. That actually it makes us as a purposeful pipeline.
On
Sanjay, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, Mank, you're saying something.
And it actually helps develop the pipeline properly, but it also inbuilds
Mm.
excitement within the organization to serve your customer better.
Mm. Thank you, Mank. Sanjay.
Yeah, so Vish, I would I'll take Deepak and Mank's point and put even a higher purpose connecting with uh, the serving of your client. That when you build a purposeful pipeline, it also means that you have the most relevant prospects who are aligned with your higher why of the organization. So it
Mm.
is not just about the volume, it is those clients you would actually be able to offer the best in class solutions to your client, and you acquiring those clients into your organization will also add a value. So hence purposeful pipeline to my mind will also mean that you are actually being very clear and the complete organization is very clear that which are the client segments which I am going to go at the current life stage of my organization, and
Mm.
be clear that whenever a query comes, no matter how juicy is the opportunity, whether it is really fitting in into my end objective. And
Yeah.
sometimes you may actually even be clear enough to drop opportunities no matter how lucrative they seem, if they are actually making you deviant from your higher purpose. So I see, actually I look at a client's pipeline, and I look at a organization's pipeline, and you just glance quickly through what is the reason why that is being pursued, and you can make out, is it that anything which was available, I am just grabbing at everything, or I am moving in a particular direction, and this client will actually together will we will make the journey meaningful.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's where, whether our strategy meets survival for the company. Some of the companies may be at that stage where they intend to survive, and that's where uh, it's not like you work on any opportunities, or you can deliver on any opportunities that you would see in the market, but are you capable enough, or is your strategy meets that survival? That's where you need to assess, and that's where I come to the next segment, which is about the reputation revenue war. And we have seen these kind of struggles within various organizations where the leadership, because of the survival instinct, they they sometimes lose the strategic vision about why they are in the marketplace, and said, they kind of chase deals, even sometimes, in a manner which is not as per their scheme of things. And that's why, I would actually like to go to Mayank and ask this question. uh, so Mayank, when you you see these kind of scenarios, and we know, pipeline is only built when customers and prospects trust you, and when you're burned out, that trust becomes harder to earn and easier to lose, right? So how do you maintain authenticity in these kind of scenarios, and how do you protect that trust when survival pressure is pushing you to close deals at any cost?
You see, it's important. We don't have to see if price is the only uh, constraint which is driving us to be in the market. Then I think there is seriously something wrong.
Hmm.
So if in most of the times you may be uh, heading to that particular area, but the question that every organization must ask is, are we here only for the price war, or are we here to to deliver value to the end client? And it's important, if the client is still harping on price, there is a clear indication that we are not delivering enough, let's say, arguments, which is giving the customer the our intent of serving him and really creating value for him. So I think the sales process itself has not delivered to the extent it should have. So
Hmm.
it is important to have retrospection and reevaluate. So there can be various reasons for it. We may have misunderstood the requirement from the end client. We we are talking to the wrong stakeholders. We are, let's say, we are talking too much to the gatekeepers and not really to the decision makers or the influencers who are there in the organization. So it's actually very, very important to do a power mapping of the client organization. So who is the stakeholder, who is the decision maker? We need to understand. We need to understand his mindset in terms of his buying behavior. And these are the questions that have to be asked by the leaders on a regular basis, so that uh, there is a kind of e- environment which is created. That it is not just the number that is being checked. It is actually the entire process that
mm,
I mean, the evaluation is not just by numbers. Okay, I'm getting you a big number, as Deepak mentioned, that Mayank in the end with his heroics has been able to get a big client.
yeah.
But important is, for any success, we have to look behind the success. There is a lot of work that goes behind it before you actually succeed, right? So
Mm,
it may be possible that a salesperson is only appearing 1 or 2 times in the office, but he is the most successful person, successful sales for that organization. So it's again important to see what are the basics that he is checking. And most of the time, 95% of the times, you will see that any salesperson who is able to bring
we lost you. We lost you, Mank. I think there's a bad network at his end. But yeah, he has shared a couple of good points, and the that clearly.
situation gets into
Okay.
place, and you will be able to meet your numbers, whatever number is kept into the funnel by anyone. You will always be able to achieve that number, because you have looked at the process.
Uh, okay, we are getting his insights in bits. So
We should do a competition. We should
I
try to
am
ask
very
the audience,
fascinated by
fill.
what MS Dhoni used to say.
yeah.
MS Dhoni always used to say, because he used to be asked a very typical question: how are you so successful, right? And what happens behind the scenes? So
Mm,
he always used to say, I am actually always focusing on the process, and not really at the end result. If the process
mm,
is right, end result is ought to be right, right? And
right.
it will happen at one point of time.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's a very good point, Mang. So process has to be clearly defined and clearly, it has to be streamlined, not to kind of get fogged by what end we can meet. But thank you so much, Mang. And while you were sharing your insights, we received a couple of questions from the audience, and let me bring this question from Rajat Agarwal. I'm glad to see you, Rajat, here. Uh, so his question is, if the product is already built, how to grow that market if the focus is only on intent-based pipeline? So who would like to share the response? Sanjay, go ahead.
Sure. I think that's a great question by Rajat. So let me answer that and also give a typical example. So I think the reason why it is important is how it also in a way defines how you are really positioning your product. So let me give you an
Mm,
example. For example, when in Tata we took over VSNL and then we globally branded it as a Tata Communications. The
mm,
positioning was that we are not a network or a pipeline provider, but how we can be a digital ecosystem enabler.
mm,
And using that as an example, we could innovatively work with large enterprise customers to actually help them build new business rather than just sell more pipeline or more bandwidth.
mm,
So, say the most famous customer for Tata Communications for that is the Formula One. So, all the
mm,
F1 live stream which you see globally across the globe, actually it runs exclusively on Tata Communications. And if we would
mm,
just position ourselves that we will be your backend bandwidth provider and you stream it, it will no longer be there. But if you
mm,
build a solution around that and you say it's actually a Tata Communications global live stream, it has a very different positioning.
Hmm.
Similarly, even if you actually pick yourself, instead of telling a large automotive client, I will just connect all your locations, you will ultimately end up, as Mayank talked of, competing on cheapest price per Mbps. But if
Hmm.
you position yourself that I will actually provide you a vendor ecosystem connector or a dealer management system, which actually helps you monetize and economize your inventory system in a real time system, the
Hmm.
value which you can bring to that is very different. So, in both the examples, ultimately the underlying commodity may be the bandwidth connectivity. But how do you build a solution around that? You can actually go and actually find directly many new clients and many new segments, and you can really open it up. And that's how your intent that you want to be a digital ecosystem enabler has to
Hmm.
go and force yourself to find the solutions. I just thought I'll give you a couple of tangible examples from there.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you. We have another question that's from Akash, Akash Paliwal. With sales as background, I can shortlist and have done some of the amazing hirings in the past for tech resources. But hiring a sales guy is always a challenge for me, for my own entity, which is burning me out. And thus, I am the only one doing all of the sales. How to come out of this mental burnout?
Can I take this one, sir? Because this is
Please.
such a cool question. And I think Akash figured out that I love this topic, so he didn't ask me my name. Here's what I would do, Akash, because I'm struggling with the same thing, and I've seen many of my customers struggle with it. I right now work with six founders who are extremely dynamic individuals, and I'm a strategic advisor to them. Each one of them had to do a mind shift to understand that they need to stop selling alone. That's what I would call out first of all, right? At the end of the day, Akash, every founder sells best because the product is their story, right? That product, it's their baby, right? Now, here's the problem though. When you're selling, your passion is going to turn into pressure because you're not doing a natural sales thing. Now, in your case, you say you're selling and you know how to sell. That's great. What I would ask you to do is I want you to step back. It's not about hiding, it's not a hiding problem. I think what you have is an identity transfer problem. And when I say by that, I'm asking you to do as follows. Don't look for a mini you. That's one of the biggest mistake people who have selling experience and our founders do. They look for people that look like them, feel like them. I want you to look for someone who can translate your vision into their own voice. Don't necessarily go hire someone full time. Maybe go look for a fractional salesperson, right? And ask that fractional salesperson, talk to them, systemize your magic so they can sell for you. And I think that's extremely critical. What I typically do with founders is, one, it's not just about the mindset, it's also about understanding that if you can't sell, there's no stigma to that, but you need to find someone who can, and then you need to give that person the freedom to do it. So move away from instinct and go support someone. Make sure that the person understands why you have this idea and why you're excited to be a founder. And don't think of this as an emotional giveaway. It's not. You're not stepping back for anything. In fact, you're being mature and stepping forward into it. Now figure out a way to use your energy to support this individual to be successful, because that person, that seller's success will ultimately lead to your success. So that's all I'm trying to just mention here, because it's such a powerful question. What I'll do just for you, Akash, is I'll add more notes to this question later on, because this has got my juices flowing. This actually is going to be my next LinkedIn post. Thank you for that, Akash. Back to you, Vish.
Thank you, Deepak. The other question that I have is from Deepak. How do entrepreneurs stay motivated and creative when opportunities are drying up and AI commoditizes what once made us special? So when every client hears AI powered from a dozen vendors, how can we rebuild trust and distinctiveness in our value proposition? So I think AI is has actually not only opened doors but at the same time made the market very buzz. A lot of buzzes, a lot of noise which is there. So how do you kind of stand out in that kind of buzz? I think that's where Deepak might be hinting towards. So any response to what Deepak has asked? Sanjay, Deepak?
I'm going to defer to Sanjay, and I've already just covered the last question from Akash,
Yeah, I
and I
think.
think I've had my moment.
Thanks,
Sure.
Deepak.
So I think to add to that perspective is not to be overwhelmed by assuming that AI will take over or you are running over all the opportunities. I think uh, just like in all the previous industrial revolution, the changes you have to. I think all the successful entrepreneurs have been the one who have actually proactively embraced the change rather than feel challenged by them. So if whether it is machines which came in or the computers which came in or the supercomputers or the mobiles which came in, similarly if AI, ultimately you have to look at it as how can AI be your enabler or can actually be enabler for your success, and can actually, how does it reduces the something boring part of your job which you were actually doing boring, monotonous or repetitive, and hence in a way it is almost freeing your management bandwidth as well as your strategy, giving you time for strategic thinking on what you should do, right? So if you were just doing what AI can do it, then basically you were just doing a manual execution, which is you has to move out. So even like for example in IT, if you see, increasingly the business model is moving from a classic per FT per hour or per month to actually a outcome based pricing. So you can also actually, maybe AI can actually be your best friend to ensure it is actually automating or help you automate part of the job, but the value or the differentiation which you bring to your client can be so different that actually you can charge possibly even a 2x or a 3x more profitable deal. And in fact today you see the most successful companies are who have even less than 50, less than 100 employees and are still generating very high revenue. So you should see that AI actually is a disruptor or an enabler which is actually helping you totally break away from your per employee revenue or your per person revenue to a totally, it can help you accelerate and move to a product based innovative solution. So I would actually advise all the entrepreneurs, whether at a startup stage or at a mature stage, you rather embrace AI, understand what is it which it can help you commoditize and move to the next level.
Thanks, Sanjay. Yeah, you made some good points. So AI can certainly be your, it can act as your teammate, digital teammate, who can help you in getting some guidance, but at the same time, helping you position your services uh, at a more better manner. But what where I would disagree is, I've seen actually AI is not letting entrepreneurs position their offerings at a premium, but then they have to kind of, even this is happening with the larger enterprises. So once AI has entered that system, they have to actually bring their pricing down. They can't have a premium tag if they are bringing AI along. So I think there is still some kind of a immaturity which is there in the market, and while even enterprises are still evaluating their play, at the same time, it might give an opportunity to startups or to entrepreneurs figuring out their niche in that market where they can actually position themselves. But I'll go to Mank and I'll ask this same question because he's in the tech industry. And Mank, you see AI, intervening in various systems currently. So how do you? What would be your response to Deepak's question? You are on mute. Let me unmute you.
Is you can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
So see, AI, Sanjay mentioned, has to be an enabler rather than a disabler, or really making our life in a particular marketplace. So let's say, for example, we'll take the example of industrial automation. How we can make as an enabler in this particular. So first of all, if I look at heavy industries, the biggest problem
Mank, we can't hear you properly. Mank, we are losing you out when you are speaking. So we can't, your sentences are not that coherent when you are speaking.
okay,
So there might be an issue
Vish,
with the
Vish, can I
mic.
suggest we move on to the next segment, and maybe Man can put his thoughts down in LinkedIn as a comment. That'll help
yeah,
Deepak a lot.
sure, I'll do that.
Thank you, Mank. So, in fact, now let's uh, have the next segment, which is actually the pipeline prison break, and that's where, in fact, we already had a conversation on some of the topics that we want to cover as part of this. Uh, but as Deepak mentioned, earlier in his question, so too many leaders are trapped in the same situation, firefighting instead of building systems. And if your pipeline depends on your personally doing everything, you don't have a business. You have an expensive job. So if I'll for the time being, let me go to Deepak and ask this question: if a CEO had to automate one part of their revenue process tomorrow, what would it be?
We started this conversation with burnout. This is a burnout session. So let me give you an answer which I have learned the hard way. When I work with sales leaders, I typically ask them, what type of activities do you do to control your pipeline? Then I
Hmm.
look at those activities and ask them, what have you automated? What are you considering automating? Now, because we're talking burnout, what I would say is as follows. If a CEO tells me that I refresh my CRM every night before I go to bed, just to be sure that things are in the right place because we have a pipeline review tomorrow, that to me is what I call the worry loop. What's happening over there is that your CEO is not managing data, he's actually managing his anxiety. Here's my
Hmm.
suggestion to everyone on this call. Identify the top 3 drivers for anxiety as in your life as a leader. If it is about sales quality of data, write it down. If it's about the fact that you get surprises at the last moment because you're not asking the right questions, write that down, and so on, so on. Here's what you really need to do. You really need to stop getting into the need for more data. You need to distance yourself from it. What I want you to do is automate those processes which give you the most stress. I know it sounds weird, Mayank, everyone, but automation is only powerful when it returns back to you, the leader, that ability to be a leader, right? And since we're talking about burnout, so if you have a habit that before going to bed, you really need to see the quality of your pipeline, and you now go and refresh the CRM while lying in bed, here's what I would do. I would ask you to go sit down with someone smart and automate the process as follows. What do you want to know? What information is it that's valuable to you? Automate that connection which says a query or a question goes to a salesperson, ask him to make
Hmm.
sure that he's updated the following, summarize that update in language that the CEO can understand or the leader can understand, bring it back to him. So what is happening is instead of him chasing his anxiety, he's being fed his anxiety in advance. And if you
Hmm.
remember the rule about hunger management, right, is feed yourself small, constantly so that your blood sugar level remains constant. That's exactly the goal with this. If you want to manage your stress, then automate those processes that deliver the most stress to you. Don't automate only those processes that deliver the most pipeline to you. And
Hmm.
that is the trick when we talk about burnout. And this is where I've seen success with how I deal with people. I know myself very well. I'm very self-aware, Vish. So I focus on the top 3 things that drive me nuts, like over
Yeah.
preparing for calls, continued thinking that I've just said something, has Mayank understood it? If he's not understood it, should I explain it better? So to stop that, I have now automated a process that allows me to actually research, prepare in advance so that I feel more confident. So I'm not second guessing myself on a call. And that's exactly what I'm going to ask people on this call. Automate your worry. Don't necessarily always automate your pipeline. That's how I would close my point of view on this one. Back to you, Vish.
No, thank you, Deepak. In fact, it also reminds me that the we as a culture or as a system, sometimes we actually do not use the or we do not understand the value of this word no. So sometimes you need to step back and you need to say no to certain things which are actually not creating value for you over the period of time. uh, Even in terms of chasing some of the opportunities, you might have to use the value of no to actually filter some of the opportunities so that you can focus on those opportunities which can actually bring you more value, rather than spreading yourself on all the opportunities.
Wish
So yeah,
this
yeah.
this is one mantra that you just mentioned, and I want to emphasize this to everyone. Success is not about what you push, it's about what you can sustain. And the ability to say no is so powerful. You need
Yeah,
to protect your energy. You protect your energy, you protect your legacy. And your legacy is what ultimately we all are after, right? And for me, it's like that the heroics thing. How do you get it from heroics? By learning to balance your time by saying no. I think that's a great point.
thank you, Deepak. We had a question, on LinkedIn earlier from Deepak Mehta, and that's a very relevant question. How do you build pipeline with good prospects digitally, and how are AI agents used? How can AI agents be used to kind of build that pipeline? So this very timely. There's a lot of AI agents we see in the market, and we also hear stories about how AI agents transforming sales. They can automate lead generation. They can qualify prospects 24/7, personalize outreach and nurture leads. But I'd like to hear your responses in terms of how you see AI change pipeline building for B2B companies. So maybe we can again give a try to Mank. Mank, if you could, Mank, if you're still there, I think we lost him. He is struggling with a bad network. Uh, he's there, but Mank, can you hear us?
Yes.
I'm actually in a bad net.
Yeah, we
So
lost you again. Okay,
yeah,
let me. No problem, Mank. I think we understand sometimes technology kind of we get over dependent on technology, and technology actually not helping us out. Deepak or Sanjay, let me go to Sanjay. Sanjay, do you want to
Let's
share your insights in terms of how AI agents can be leveraged by sales teams moving forward?
Sure, Vish. So I think that's a great question and most relevant in today's environment. So I'll connect it back to the earlier point which I made, that if you look at AI as your enabler, in a way it also goes back, it is giving you an opportunity that very clearly define your purpose or a why very explicitly. So bring it actually back from something implicit, why you have a company or what is it which your company's product or service is offered, somewhere hidden in your about us page. Actually,
Hmm.
this is an opportunity to enable, hence why you are exist as a company. You should be able to define very clearly and train the AI solution or the AI LLM, that what is the kind of customer or a prospect you're looking for, and what is the kind of solution which you are offering. And hence,
Hmm.
the sharper it actually gives you an opportunity to train the relevant AI model on a very sharper customer or a prospect identification. And the sharper is that input, the better will be actually the output, because
Hmm.
ultimately AI, what AI is doing is that it is actually picking up all your inputs and then will try to go and in a real world try to fetch the people who match those aspects or those parameters. So how I see it is that it is a truly an opportunity for you to think hard, think deep, and actually put those parameters much more explicitly. The second
Right.
aspect which I see is it is also an opportunity for very quickly for you to actually change the parameters on the go. So if you think you have trained on what are the top three category of client prospects you are looking, but actually the
Hmm.
market feedback is you are not generating it. It actually gives you an opportunity to actually virtually within minutes change and tweak the parameter, and the AI again goes back to do it. So it is also giving you an opportunity to be much more effective in a real time. So that's how you link your thinking hard part to actually enabling AI as your friend, and then generate the best in class queries.
Thank you, Sanjay. You actually, focus. You actually talked about two critical aspects. One is, of course, the process of training those AI tools. That is very critical. If you have not trained your AI tools, then it may not give the results that you are intending. And second is, you also talked about uh, the speed by which you can deploy these tools, or the speed by which you can deploy your thinking in the market. Means you can use these AI tools to kind of identify those signals from your target customers. But then you have to clearly define what are those signals that you are looking for. So in fact, what I have learned, in fact, we have been working with a couple of customers. We're helping them, on the pipeline acceleration. So one important aspect is how you're defining your target customer. What are those signals that you are looking at? What are those signals that are actually important for you, that you could possibly define and train your tools that you can use. So you have tools that can actually give you access to contact database. You have tools that can give you access to the intent. What kind of whether the customer is going through a downsize at their business, or they have lost a win, or they have kind of launching a new product in the market, or launching a program in the market. How can you align your business offerings to the customer goals? That is very critical when you start reaching out to these customers, or when you are actually putting down the list of these customers. So one is, of course, you have access to data. You are getting that speed which you need to penetrate that market. And then you also can leverage AI to build your value messaging in a way so that it can resonate with your customer. So you need to, there's no single AI tool in that matter, but you might have to work with different AI tools to kind of get that system in place, so that it can act like a revenue engine for you on day-to-day basis. So that is my take. Deepak, do you have any further uh, addition to what I shared, or what
No,
Sanjay
because
shared?
I think that it's always nice to leave with the host as the last voice of reason. I actually have to exit because I have to get into my car and go for a meeting. But as always, what I will do is that there's so many good questions came in, and as other speakers were speaking, I was thinking I'm going to drop a few more notes, Wish, to the people and just give them some more insights into what's bubbling in my mind, rather than taking airtime here. People, I highly recommend go back to the comments. Give me a couple of hours. I'll put some more updates there. I'll actually tag the person that's asked the question so they can make sure they get more detail behind it. Really enjoyed this session. I'm going to have to say goodbye at this point, Vish. I really apologize. But take care,
No,
everyone.
thank
I
you.
need to drop. Thank you, Vish. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Deepak, and thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you here with us. Thank you, Sanjay, for joining us and sharing your insights. And thank you, Mayank. I understand you have a bad network today, but maybe the conversation will be there on LinkedIn, so you can add your thoughts
Yeah.
on LinkedIn as well. And I request everyone to join our next session, which is there on November 6th. That's a special edition of session. We would be talking about a book that Deepak has authored. It's Rise Up Your Career Reclaimed. So we would go in. We'll have a conversation with Deepak in terms of what inspired him to author this book, and we'll go in certain parts of it. We have our next session, which is there on 20th of November. That next session is about is your market always buying? Do we see referrals? What is the play of discovery signals and referrals when you see that your market is always buying? This is on 20th of November, and Ritika has already shared these LinkedIn event page on the comments. So do register for these sessions, and we look forward to seeing you on these events. But thank you so much for joining, and I wish you all a very happy and prosperous Diwali, as next week is a Diwali week. But thank you so much again, Deepak, Sanjay, and Mang. And thank you. We look forward to seeing you in the next session.
Thanks so much, Vish and team, and thanks to all the audience for joining in on a weekday evening.
Yeah, thank you
And
very much.
morning, and morning.
And morning,
And
US
morning.
time.
Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye, everyone.